What's up, everybody? My name is Grant, and I'm on a mission to watch every movie ever made. And if that's something that's interesting to you, then you are in the right place. This week, I watched every Punisher movie to celebrate the newest special presentation coming to Disney Plus, and we're going to take a look at them and rank them from worst to best. Every adaptation of Frank Castle, from an animated movie to both seasons of the show to even a short fan made film. Which one of these is the best and which one of these is the absolute worst? So let's jump right into it. What is the worst Frank Castle adaptation ever made that's currently out there? Coming in last place as the worst Punisher movie to be released, it is Avengers Confidential, Black Widow, and Punisher. This was a 2014 animated movie directed by Kenichi Shimizu. It's actually an Avengers movie more than it is a Punisher movie. While the Punisher is in the title and he's one of the main characters, this is a story that honestly focuses around Black Widow. This is a movie that explores her interests, her motivations, all of her characteristics, and the Punisher is kind of relegated to being a supporting character that honestly is more of a hindrance to the plot than anything that fully involves him in a proper way. It doesn't explore his backstory very much. It doesn't get into his motivations and why he's doing what he's doing, who he's doing it for, like almost every single one of these other adaptations gets into. This is an Avengers animated movie where the superheroes are really just meant to beat up a bunch of bad guys and look cool while doing it. And this movie is really egregious for the way it portrays its characters, for the way they are animated and designed. It's not worth watching, really at all, unless you're a really big fan of the Marvel movies and you really want to give it a try. If you really want to check everything off of your list, like I did, then you can give this one a go. But for somebody who's looking for a great Punisher adaptation, this is about as far as you can get. It ends up being just a generic Marvel action movie that never really captures any of the pain, any of the menace of the character that you expect from Frank Castle. So that's why it's last place on my list. Coming in seventh place is going to be The Punisher Season 2. Now, if you've seen the Punisher TV show, you know that John Bernthal does a phenomenal job in it. And that's not different in Season 2. The Punisher Season 2 has its moments where it is genuinely enjoyable. But this show takes really every misstep you can in portraying all of the characters around Frank Castle. You have this girl that he has to kind of take a father daughter relationship with and sort of mentor her and keep her safe from some bad guys in their lives. And she's absolutely an obnoxious character. And really, we've seen this before. If you guys remember the Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit movies from Tom Cruise, he takes this exact same role in this movie. He has a girl who might be his daughter, and he's got to protect her over the duration of the movie. If you've seen The Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington, there's a boy in this movie that he kind of takes a fatherly role of and has to protect him in the same exact way. These are plot points that are overused. It's a trope that I don't really like to see in my action movies. When I want to see someone awesome fight a bunch of bad guys, I don't need to see a child getting involved and having to remember this cool martial arts move that they've been taught 6 episodes prior, or however it is that we want to include this child in the story, so we have to shoehorn it in and give the villain a really obvious weakness that this child can exploit and get out of a headlock or anything like that. That's not the point of watching The Punisher. And the character of Jigsaw, who was fantastically played by Ben Barnes in season 1 of The Punisher, is really misused in season 2. Instead of being more menacing and stepping things up a little bit more in the second season, he goes to therapy and he spends almost the entire season in therapy. And that's not what I want to see from my villain of the movie, or I mean, of the show. it makes it just incredibly slow and boring for most of the episodes of season 2. So, to follow up season 1, which will be significantly higher on my list to spoil it for you guys, season 2 was a complete misstep and really just let down a lot of viewers in a lot of ways. So it's number 7 on my list. And really, I hope that we can kind of move on from that as we keep the Punisher going in the MCU and forget about that whole angle of let's focus on the characters going to therapy. Coming in sixth place is actually going to be a controversial one. I have Punisher Warzone, released in 2008 and directed by Lexi Alexander. This is one that a lot of Punisher fans will put near the top of their list. And I will admit, a lot of the reasons why people do that is because this is probably the most comic book accurate Punisher out there. He is violent and brutal, and the movie is gory and bleak and dark. The villains die in horrific ways, and Jigsaw is thrown into a I mean, honestly, it was like a glass blender. I don't know what real world use you have for a giant blender that crushes up glass, but Jigsaw fell into it and it didn't work out well for him. And this movie is just continually bleak and sad and takes a really grounded, morally gray approach to who Frank Castle is and how his actions impact the people around him. You have a lot of characters from the comic books that make an appearance here and are pretty well done. You have Jigsaw as the villain here, as well as in the Punisher TV show. And here he is a huge comic book villain, much like Jack Nicholson in the Michael Keaton Batman movies. He's way over the top. He's this hammy, play it up kind of villain, and that doesn't really work well with how serious Ray Stevenson is as the Punisher. I love Ray Stevenson, and I think he does a fantastic job here, but I don't think everything in this movie is designed to work with each other. You also have a great supporting performance from Wayne Knight as Micro, a character that we don't get to see enough of. You don't see it in the 2004 Punisher movie or the 1989 Punisher movie. You only really see it here and in the TV show. So it was great to see him make an appearance here as that character that I really enjoyed seeing on screen. The movie itself just gets too sad and a little too contrasting in its themes for me to fully get on board with it. There are parts of Punisher Warzone that are the best we have seen in a Punisher movie, and there are other parts that just don't work at all. And so it creates a really unbalanced movie that, while I enjoyed and I had a good time with, it doesn't really beat out a lot of the ones that are higher up on this list, which is why this is sitting at number 6 on my list. Coming in fifth place, we have 1989's The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren. This movie was directed by Mark Goldblatt, legendary editor in Hollywood, and does a great job at that initial appearance of Frank Castle in a movie and on screen. When you think about a lot of these early 80s, 90s action movies that didn't get a sequel, you kind of expect them to be pretty terrible. And while there are certainly some parts of The Punisher that don't make a lot of sense 30, 35, 40 years later, the movie isn't that bad. Aside from these weird arcs it takes with there's this homeless guy trying to encourage the Punisher, and there are scuba diving ninjas throughout the movie. If you take those parts out, you have a performance from Dolph Lundgren that actually rivals John Bernthal for his portrayal of the character. You know, you get a more emotionally shattered character from Dolph Lundgren. He is absolutely listless as this version of Frank that really just wants to die. And if it weren't for his mission of taking people out, he would probably take himself out pretty quickly. And you actually come when he's at an all time low in this movie. He is thinking about quitting, thinking about leaving and not doing his job anymore, not being the hero that we've come to expect from him. And he's really got to step back up and actually work alongside some of the criminals he's known for taking out because their kids have been kidnapped by the Yakuza. So there's a lot of interesting moral ambiguity in what he's doing. Obviously, he's doing the right thing by protecting these kids, but then you have to think about who he's working with in order to do this. For a movie from 1989, The Punisher was a fantastic start to this character. I don't think the actual premise of the movie works that well, but I think it's honestly acted well. It doesn't look half bad, and I really enjoy the central performance by Dolph Lundgren. You also have a supporting performance from Louis Gossett Jr. as Frank's former partner in uh, police work that does a great job of supporting him as well. So this one is landing fifth on my list. It is pretty good, and I would recommend you guys go check it out. In fourth place is the 2004 The Punisher, directed by Jonathan Hensley. This is a movie starring Thomas Jane as Frank Castle, as an undercover FBI agent who, when he's responsible for the death of a child of a notable mob leader, played uh, fantastically by John Travolta, he decides he's going to get revenge on Frank Castle and slaughters his entire family. This is one of the only Punisher adaptations that actually shows how Frank Castle got started. He starts as this cop who is well meaning and just wants to spend time with his family and with his child. We don't get to see that part of his life very often in these adaptations. Generally, when we come to Frank Castle, he's already lost everything and become the man that we know him to be. Whether that's him still avenging his family by killing the people who were responsible, or whether he's completely moved on, like in Punisher Warzone, we haven't gotten that much of a sneak peek to before the tragedy actually happened. And here we get it, and it's phenomenal. Thomas Jane is my favorite version of the Punisher. Even if his story doesn't match that of the comic books, with him being an FBI agent instead of a former soldier, Thomas Jane plays it to perfection and takes a really different role for who the Punisher is. A lot of these other adaptations, you have the Punisher as this absolute just juggernaut of a brawler. He's slaughtering people in masses. He's great with guns and with knives and with whatever he can get his hands on, and just really brute forces his way through crime. That's not Thomas Jane's character. He's got to take on John Travolta, and instead of just storming his mansion one day and taking him out, he systematically dismantles this man's life, getting him to go to some really dark places in his mind. He's not sure what's going on with his life or what's happening. And you just see fantastic performances from both John Travolta and Thomas Jane. In fact, this movie is probably the most star-studded of any of the Punisher adaptations. Aside from Thomas Jane and John Travolta, you have Will Patton, you have Roy Schneider making an appearance as Frank Castle Sr. You have Laura Herring and Ben Foster that play awesome supporting roles as well. This movie is just honestly really well made. Even if it does take a little bit of a slump in the middle as we sort of explore some more character motivations and who the people in Frank Castle's apartment complex are, we honestly could have done without that in the movie. But aside from that, this is a fantastic Punisher movie. And of the three full length theatrical live action Punisher movies that we've gotten so far, this one is my favorite. But it's only coming in at number four on my list, which means there are three things above it that I consider to be better adaptations of The Punisher. So let's get right into it. In third place on my list is actually going to be the 2012 short film Punisher Dirty Laundry. Now, this makes a reappearance for Thomas Jane 8 years after his movie. He comes back to be in this video. It's really only about 10 minutes at max, and just portrays Thomas Jane's version of the Punisher after he has gotten revenge for his family. He is trying to stay sober as it regards to killing, trying to not get involved in a bunch of the crime around him. But when he sees a child in danger while he's getting his laundry done, he decides to step back in and save the day in a pretty brutal and violent way. In only a few minutes on screen, Thomas Jane does here what most versions of The Punisher aren't able to do in any of their performances over 90, 120 minutes. He shows up and he just takes care of crime. He takes out the laundry and he does what needs to be done in an awesome way. So for a short film to be this high up on the list, it really is just a fantastic sequel to the 2004 Punisher movie. It was a great way for Thomas Jane to leave this character off, to get to come back and just make one final hurrah at it, and just steps up what we see in the movie to be one of my favorite things that I've seen from the character. That's why it's in third place. In second place on my list, I have The Punisher Season 1. This was the second official portrayal of the Punisher by John Bernthal after he was in Daredevil Season 2, which I didn't include on this list because it wasn't really a Punisher adaptation. It was more of a Daredevil adaptation. But it kind of goes right into this one. If you combine Daredevil Season 2 and The Punisher Season 1, you really get a fleshed out character of who this version of Frank Castle is and what he's willing to do. And he's awesome. John Bernthal is fantastic in this role. I have loved this actor since his time as Shane in The Walking Dead. That was a show I watched a lot as a kid and really enjoyed getting to see this actor just really get a career highlight performance out of this character of Frank Castle. And to come in season one of The Punisher, opposite Ben Barnes, opposite some characters from the Daredevil TV show, he does a perfect job portraying this character. I may prefer the Thomas Jane version personally, just for how he is more systematic and more thoughtful in his approach to taking down crime. But for the viciousness that you get in the comic books, John Bernthal has it. He's nailing it on every factor, on the fighting, on the shooting, on how just absolutely furious he is at how he's alive and his family is not. There's something heartbreaking about this character that John Bernthal captures really well. And The Punisher season 1 was really the best opportunity he's had to show it off, in my opinion, at least the emotional side. Coming in at number 1 on my list, the best Punisher adaptation that I have seen is actually going to be the brand new Punisher One Last Kill special presentation released on Disney Plus just a couple weeks ago at the beginning of May. I believe it was like May 12th. This was almost the perfect Punisher movie with one key thing missing, and that's honestly just the length. It was only about 40 minutes long. And if this were an hour and a half, this would have been a 10 out of 10 movie. Right now, I have it at a 9 just because I wanted so much more than they were able to give me. This is such a good balance of the brutality of the character mixed with his inherent tragedy, but also his ability to just get up and go to protect the people around him. Whether that's people living in his apartment complex, whether that's children on the street, or whether that is the owner of a nearby cafe. The Punisher has always been best characterized when, even with his violence and his hatred of the world around him, he's willing to protect the innocent and those that he wasn't able to protect in his past. This is the definitive portrayal of who the Punisher is so far, and it just gets me so much more excited to see him in Spider-Man Brand New Day. John Bernthal is Frank Castle. He has owned this role and he has continued to build on the character. This movie is almost perfect. Aside from a little bit of CGI errors that a lot of people are talking about online, and really just it needing to be a lot longer, I'm so glad that this is how we were able to bring the Punisher into the MCU. It's my favorite of any of the adaptations I saw, and I'm really excited for you guys to go and check it out as soon as you can. Definitely before the next Spider-Man movie comes out. Guys, that was my ranking of all 8 adaptations of The Punisher that I have seen. From the TV shows to the movies to the short films to everything in between. Guys, please tell me, what's your favorite Punisher adaptation and which actor do you like in the role the most? Next up, I'm going to be checking out 10 werewolf movies, and after that, I'll be watching every Mortal Kombat adaptation. So if you guys are interested in that, please stick around and check out those videos when they come out. Hope you guys have a good day.